hearing the update as well. We have several members of our steering committee here. Do you all want to stand up real quick? I know you don't like me doing that to you, but you're all here, so. Thank you. And then I want to introduce or recognize board members who are here. You guys go ahead, have a seat. Come on, stand on up, board members. And then we do have representation from our work groups. Mr. Van Landingen, Tara, Miles. All have worked diligently for quite some time over the last year to create this plan for West End revitalization. I do want to introduce very quickly members of the backbone team for this work, and that's myself, Miss Rebecca Arnold. And brand new to our team, who was on the steering committee, is Mr. Avery Pearl joining our team. Mr. Thurgood Brooks can join us today. He had a previous engagement, but right now we are 4 strong with our backbone team for the Martin Luther King Center. So why don't we go ahead and get started? But before we get too far into talking about the 3-year general overview of the 3-year plan, there are some things that are truly vital to know about West End revitalization. Some of them you know already. I mean, one great example was that you know that this was truly a participatory process. It was inclusive and it included quite a bit of vetting and planning to make sure the work that's going to be done fits our community. It's been over a year in the making, but even more so than that. We've had so many folks involved, including our working groups, including our steering committee. But before that, task force to create our steering committee, community conveners to create and implement our assessment within the community. It has been truly a community-involved process, which I know this council truly appreciates and has true value for, considering the work that you put in to determining how the ARPA dollars are being spent. So we're really aligned in that regard as far as process, as far as philosophy of being inclusive in our community. The plan, besides having true and authentic community engagement, as I just mentioned, is built on a solid foundation of data as well. We were able to engage enterprise community partners, was able to provide us quite a bit of data to power our assessment and to create our recommendations, or at least inform our recommendations. There's evidence and there's best practices to show that this type of work, using the collective impact model, is truly effective for issues that want to engage the community on broad, challenging issues within the community. It is vital to know that this work is supportive, again, of collaboration, transparency, and really what's important for us is trust. Because as you remember, in that survey or in that assessment of the issues that we're seeing within the West End, one of the biggest issues that this community expressed was trust. We have said this over and over and over again, and nothing's happened, at least nothing that we can feel and understand. And that's how trust can be interpreted. So what's going to be embedded, as you see moving forward, is that trust is a huge value for this work. This work is going to be long-term and it's holistic. We have a 3-year plan, yes, with a 5-year vision, but that's just the beginning. This is a process that should be embedded and part of the community work moving forward. It addresses symptoms as well as the root causes, the what and the why it's happening. It's equity and inclusion in action, as you well can see. And most importantly, for this context, it's going to strengthen the well-being of Rock Island. The work is moving towards a vision of the West End being a preferred place to live and to thrive. The goal towards that vision is to build the West End's wealth, its power, its livability, and the values that are embedded in the work, the how we do this, is based in justice, equity, collaboration, empowerment, respect, inclusion, communication, and again, as I emphasize, trust. So let's get into the plan just a little bit. A reminder that this plan is going to focus on 5 key areas. And while we have separated them out, it's very important to know that none of these are by themselves in a silo. These are intertwined, interwoven. It is a holistic point of view. And the simple reason is this: none of our citizens live in a silo. One aspect always touches the other. And so while we'll talk about these separately, understand that some of the strategies are going to be have a Venn diagram that intersect with the other impact areas. So the plan will be addressing economic vitality, our ability to see, support, and growth and attract businesses and entrepreneurs within the West End. Assets and income. It's vital to increase the wealth and reduce poverty rates in the West End. Infrastructure and visual appeal, a beautiful community in which to live in and to have pride in, and that is both functional as well. Community engagement, you might hear me refer to it as civic capital. We're enhancing the relationships, the networks, the skills that the communities come together to make decisions, to influence decisions. And then housing and land, safe, stable housing and neighborhoods that are supportive of upward mobility. And not surprising to you, this concretely aligns with some of the work that this council wants done within the city of Rock Island. So, jumping into the plan. In the area of strengthening civic capital or community engagement in the West End and beyond, 2 points, 2 large overview points. We want to establish platforms and metrics to effectively elevate West End community voices. When in communications, you're going to start hearing terms like accessibility, because these are wonderful words, but what do they really mean? What it really means is there is a community, as you well know, that wants to be engaged in some of the processes that have real impact on their lives. It happens here, it happens in school, it happens in other areas. We're going to create platforms, accessibilities, ways for community members to be involved in those processes and others as well. Another great example, but a major point with this, is creating participatory budgeting processes to reflect the community priorities. We all well know that if we want to best reflect, if we want to know what best reflects our priorities, it's the budget. And so providing opportunities for our citizens, for the West End citizens in particular, to be involved in these processes as they stand, not necessarily to change or revolutionize, but to make sure it's accessible, as well as other processes as well, is going to be some of the work in civic capital for the West End. Building West End residents' assets and income. How are we going to go about that in the plan? Well, 3 bullet points. Supporting a service core model as part of a broader workforce development. Things like, let's oversimplify. What if there was a service corps of youth that were able to mow lawns within the West End for free to those residents, but also are gaining a certain skill set that might give them an internship at Park and Rec or at Public Works, which in turn provides them with different skill sets and makes them employable in other industries. A true oversimplification, but you understand the example and how you can extrapolate that to scale in other areas. Provide financial services and banking products as an entry point for financial stability, to create wealth and maintain wealth, generation for generation. Really simply said, we do recognize that in the West End, there are few financial institutions within the West End, and thus few financial opportunities, or at least to interact with these institutions. And that's a vital aspect of being financially stable and healthy. And then last, for this plan, looking at funding and incentivizing education savings accounts for our children so that they have a path after they graduate from high school, be it trades, be it college, be it whatever, but making sure that we're incentivizing that funding so that there is upward mobility for the youth that are coming out. Increasing housing stability and quality, along with community control of land and housing. 4 points to take up on this. We're going to support the expansion of proactive rental inspection programs while protecting tenant rights. Within this area, instead of just waiting for things to happen, what if there was a cadre of citizens or other employees or other people involved in making sure that we have strong in compliance housing opportunities for people who want to rent property? Creating and/or supporting a tenants association, expanding housing supply for potential West End homeowners, and then establishing a West End housing rehab support program. Now, I recognize that these are broad areas, And I could go into detail if I had the plan in front of me, but we posted this over a 100-page plan that has detail by detail, even a timeline on the website to really get into and to really dig into. And we do have some of the folks here to help create that plan to give you some of the ideas or some of the concepts that are going to be involved in these steps. Again, this is an overview of what they're seeking to accomplish within the next 3 years. How do we increase economic vitality within the West End? 3 points. Adopt a community navigator model to support the West End businesses and entrepreneurs. A person, a place, a contact point that can help bring a business plan, an idea to life within the West End. Also, to prepare businesses to earn contracting opportunities. Um, there's a lot of work in making sure you're eligible for some of the business contracts that are out there, and having another access point to be ready for that would be vital for this area of Rock Island. And then one thing that really hits home for many of us, and certainly within the West End, to explore the creation of a community grocery store in the West End. It is without question that this council and our mayor has worked diligently to create a grocery store within this area of Rock Island. Citizens within the West End are going to be aligned with this work, to help with this work, to make sure they have a grocery store that we can get true food and nutrition within the area. Improving the West End's infrastructure and visual design. So, exploring and supporting partnerships to redevelop Franklin Field, an issue that has long been a concern for the West End of Rock Island. And so, it's not necessarily that this plan is going to take over that redevelopment, but it will facilitate that. We have already reached out to school partners to see if there's any sort of motivation, excitement around this, and there is. A lot of work to be done before this gets completed. Strengthen affordable broadband access for all within the West End. Again, another issue I know this council is very, very concerned about, and perhaps with citizen assistance, we could see some real progress in the area. Enhance streetscape to increase mobility and beautification, and then amplified local character through placemaking initiatives, helping to make the West End of Rock Island a place where people want to go, attractive places that people want to see, enhancing that pride in the West End. That is a lot, and it's a lot of work to get done. And how do we go about getting that work done? And this is a key point for this work moving forward. Creating a West End Community Development Corporation, a CDC, to do this work, to staff this work, to drive this work, and to facilitate all of the resources that are within the West End and beyond towards this plan. This CDC will explore the creation of a West End Special Service Area, an SSA, which you all are well aware of and what it is. And then the King Center will continue to be the backbone for this work. Again, the King Center being the backbone is not necessarily the influencer. We're not the influencer. We are the facilitator. We will be helping with community ownership through communications and community relations. We'll work with partners to get them engaged in the work. We will mobilize resources, and we will be assisting in measurement and evaluation to see what sort of progress is being made, what missteps are being taken, and how do we correct it so we can continue to move forward. As you all well know, I want to let you all know this, that yes, you all were the first stakeholders where we wanted to see this plan, but that couldn't be. And so there have been others who have seen this plan, great media coverage for the March 22nd reveal and celebration. And since then, we've seen quite a bit of interest. In fact, even from private donors outside of Rock Island. And I'm hoping within this month, we're going to make another special announcement about the level of support we're going to see for this work moving forward. And what that will be able to allow us to do is to ramp up our efforts to continue looking at those resources that can help this work. There are a variety of grants, regional, state, and federal, that want to support this type of work. We do not have the internal capacity as of yet to really and truly actualize that and activate it for the work in the West End. In other words, bring in outside investment from outside of Rock Island into Rock Island for this work. And so the seed money that we are anticipating, we'll be using that to amp up bolster our internal capacity to make sure we can access those resources. How can our city council help with this work? Well, of course, we want you all to continue to be ambassadors and champions. You have been investors of this work. We have already seen a $300,000 grant come back to this work. We anticipate other opportunities to come and invest in this work, plus the results from the work itself. To continue to be open to policy change and remove and minimize barriers and streamline processes. I have the great honor of being here every 2 weeks with you all, and I get to see you all do that quite a bit. So this is right aligned with the work that you're already doing. And then identifying and leverage other resources and opportunities that many of you all done for me, but now you have a broader opportunity to bring some of those resources into West End. And of course, as you've asked, stay involved. We have been able to provide you quarterly updates for this work, and we appreciate you holding us not necessarily accountable, but showing true interest in this work. And with that, I'd love to open it up for your questions for me and or some of the experts that are in the audience with me today.
I've got a question for you. I guess I'll start. So on this $300,000 grant, where are those funds being, what are those funds being going towards to people that may be listening in and not familiar with what's happening here today?
Oh, thanks. And that was one of the great questions we had at the reveal. And we're utilizing that for staff and internal capacity. There's a lot of work to be done with this sort of work. And most models for this work require at minimum 5 full-time staff. At right now, with the addition of Mr. Avery Pearl to our team, we have 2 full-time staff for this work. And we need more capacity for that. So the majority of those dollars will be going towards that. As we continue to move forward, we will look for opportunities to show the community tangible ways that things are moving forward, and those dollars can go towards that as well. But the focus will be making sure we have that capacity to make this plan come to life.
Another question while I'm at it here. So I know you've looked, maybe this was listed somewhere in here, but have you talked about doing like the trades? Like we've done several events down at the MLK Center, right, for pre-apprenticeship programs. Is that something you're looking to do? Those are, and I guess it made me think about it when you were looking at the education savings accounts, because let's frankly, not everybody's a college person, but we do have a need for trades. And I didn't know if that's something that you've considered doing.
Yes, steering working groups have considered that significantly, and it's in the details of the plan. And you're right, the incentivizing education funds is speaking to that. That is a viable and quite accessible opportunity for our community to be stable, to reinvest in our community. So the short answer to your question is yes.
Okay, one last question for me. So you talked about exploring the creation of an SSA. What kind of feedback are you getting from the residents in this proposed area? And I know that, obviously raising taxes is an issue, and I'm kind of wondering, have you done any kind of a survey on this to see what kind of support you have for that down there?
Survey hasn't been done yet, but that work will have to occur. When this issue was brought up in work groups and steering committees, and I wasn't there for each and every one of them, I was surprised by the level of support from those who live in that area or in this community that wanted to see this at least explored. Like you said, the concept of raising someone's taxes is not incredibly popular. But as you can see recently, if you can show people what will come of your investment, and making sure that it's a participatory budgeting process, people are willing to invest in themselves, and that's the hope of this work moving forward. There is much work to be done to assess the feasibility of this work.
That's all I have.
I do. I have one, and it's just a curiosity thing. When you talk about creating a West End Community Development Corporation, are you envisioning that as being like a nonprofit that will be started or staffed by volunteers? I was just curious.
The vision at this point is it is a nonprofit organization spun off to its own self, own
Okay.
governance, own staff. The King Center will continue to be involved as a backbone until it can lift its own weight in that regard. But the King Center and other organizations will continue to be partners within the CDC as well.
Okay, so it'd be structured like a 501c, so they could receive donations and stuff. Okay.
Absolutely.
Did you have something, Moses?
No question. Just want to make a comment, of course.
Sure.
I love the work that's being done. I thought it was on.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, trying to cut me off. Just want to make a comment about I love how the work is being done, the process is being done, how it's inclusive to everyone, how informative it is, and the fact that we actually are taking our time and doing the data and letting the data drive the project. Typically what happens in these type of projects, it's being controlled from above and then pushed down. This is being done the opposite way. From the down, from the ground up, it's being kind of constructed. I know with the SSA, we have done some initial conversations with people, but there's a lot of data that still needs to be done as far as the SSA. Kind of the background for that is to provide the necessary resources to ensure that this is successful. We know it's going to take a huge financial component to ensure that this goes on longer than 2 or 3 years outside of what we are receiving with the donations. So we're looking for the longevity of it to ensure that it's successful. So again, to the staff, to the steering committee, thank you for a job well done. I know you have taken a lot of hours to get to this point right here, but this is just the beginning. So again, thank you.
And just to add to that, I can't state enough how gratifying it was to work with working groups and citizens, people that live here have investment in this. When we first started out, we wanted to meet once a month. Working groups said to us, nope, not enough. We want to be here more often trying to get this plan. We have till February. So they agreed to twice a month meetings, much to Thurgood's chagrin because he was there all the time. But nonetheless, it created a great plan, and a plan I think that the community can get behind. So kudos to our great Rock Island community.
I guess I would like first is I guess a comment. Thank you for everybody volunteering their time and their efforts and knowledge, and it's very much appreciated. It really is. It is heartwarming to see that type of involvement, and like Mr. Robinson said, bringing this from the ground up versus down. I think it makes a big difference. And so, who knows better than what issues need to be addressed than those that live it, work with it day in and day out. And so that's very commemorative. My question is, or thoughts are, do we know, I'll say, getting into the details, do we need to, is it a facility that's eventually going to be needing? And when you talk about staffing, what type of staffing, do you know what type of staffing you need? Is there a specialty in fields, or is it, like trade training or those type of things?
Your first question, a facility, will there be a need for that? I anticipate that, but it's going to be closer to the third year that we'll be exploring that more deeply. Certainly, the King Center is I'm having to create office space for all the folks that we have currently, so certainly wouldn't fit at our facility. And more importantly, for stronger community engagement, there needs to be a different building for people to latch onto and understand the work that's being done there. In regards to staffing, I think it's better to talk about the fact that in the next 6 months, we're going to recruit a CDC visioning committee to help with the creation of the Community Development Corporation. And so those questions can begin to be answered at that point in time, at least the foundational staff. And I'm not sure what will be needed at that point in time, but that will create the foundation for other staff to be brought upon as the plan continues and as things evolve.
Thoughts, comments, anybody? If not, thank you very, very much. A lot of work.
Well, thank you to the City Council. If you all don't remember, let me remind you, you put $140,000 into this work about, 3 years ago? And was supportive of it when it first came to us in regards to impossible investment into this work. Things are coming to fruition. Although we're at the end of this process, we're at the beginning of another, and it's exciting to see what's going to happen for our city of Rock Island. So thank you, City Council.
Thank you. All right, I could use a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.